Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out Malicious Compliance. Story 1. The Toilet Seat Argument. It's not on the high end of malice but petty nonetheless. The age-old man vs woman toilet seat argument has happened with my mother and my sisters and now my wife. So I for a while now put down the seat and the covers so they still need to at least lift the lid, putting in pretty much the same amount of effort. I point this out to them from time to time so they know how ridiculous it is for them to just not put the seat down when they get in the bathroom. Edit. After reading a lot of. Story 2. If you leave the ward we will discharge you. Second edit. I have taken out the repeated use of junior doctor. As a commenter pointed out, in the NHS, a junior doctor is any doctor that isn't a consultant, even if they have 20 years experience. Her behavior likely had nothing to do with her job title/status as it isn't relevant to the story. Thanks to the commenter for calling me out on this. Edit. This blew up more than I thought it would. Thanks for all the lovely. Story 3. Cool business class for over a year. Worked at a little US-based startup that was being acquired by an industry giant. Had a good management role and flew across the globe a lot, but as a startup we are frugal and kept spending as low as possible. I had a surgery planned for months before the acquisition. Serious shit, big spinal surgery involving titanium etc. So I have the surgery, all is well, am off for a 3 to 4 weeks to recover, and as I am recovering the merger into the new company completes and we have a large company event in China coming up. So I call my VP and tell him, love to come but cannot fly sitting up for 12 hours yet. Lying flat in business class works but will cost $1,500 more. VP says, that is a no-brainer, we want you there, book it. So I try to book and here comes numbnuts CPO of the new big company. Explain the situation to him and the VP pre-approval and he gives me the "we bought you guys, that is not how things work in this company Mr. Speech. He needs doctor's proof of my surgery. I offer to send him some bloody pictures of my surgery and scars if he doesn't believe me. Nope, needs to be a doc signature on it and explanation why. That is how the procedure works here. I tell him I was operated on by a top spinal surgeon who doesn't have the time to write a letter to a tiny PP CPO. Numbnuts ends call power tripping with, well I guess you won't be going to Shanghai Mr. Following week I had a planned checkup with surgeon, he asks how things are and I say all is great except Mr. Numbnuts making things unnecessarily complicated at work. Surgeon smiles and says don't worry, I know the type, we will get him. 2 days later I get a letter from him in the mail detailing that any flight over 15 minutes, needs to be business class for the next 18 months to not risk my recovery. Smiley face, I submit the letter to Numbnuts. He forwards it to HR and expense approvals and I raked in more miles that year than I did in 5 years before. Thanks for the tip, Numbnuts. Probably ended up costing them at least $20,000 extra. Story 4. Because I missed the bus I have to walk to school, so be it. I was reminded by this post about an event that happened when I was far too young to be on my own. I did not expect this to be this long, but writing it has been a little cathartic. TLDR, as a child, I missed the bus. My mother told me to walk the 2-mile route by myself. So I did. Some setup of the scene. This would have been back in the mid-1970s. I was in elementary school. I don't remember what grade/age, but that school was 1st through 3rd, so I was somewhere between 5 and 8 years old. Although I remember starting to dislike school because of being bullied by classmates in 2nd grade, so it was more likely 2nd or 3rd grade, age 6 to 7. I was expected to do my morning routine, get up, dressed, breakfast, and walk to the bus stop entirely on my own. The bus stop was about 500 or 1/10 of a mile away, and around a sharp corner at the end of the route. This meant that while there was a chance I could see the bus go by if I was running late and on my way, but because of the angles involved, there was little chance the driver could see me if I was late, so they wouldn't know to stop and wait for me. I don't remember if I was dragging my feet or just got up late that morning, but by the time I got to the bus stop that morning, it was too late. The bus had come and gone without me. In the past, when this happened, I'd sadly walk back home, tell my mother, and she'd drive me in. But for some reason, this morning, she decided that it wasn't happening. I don't know if she was trying to teach me a lesson or just had enough or what, but she told me that I had to walk. No, she wouldn't be coming with me. A young girl, about 6 or 7, walking about a 2-mile route alone. I was terrified. There were few sidewalks, mostly just dirt paths worked into the side of the road, if that. Plus, due to elements that I now know are not good for a child to go through, by this time, I definitely had issues doing anything wrong in the eyes of adults around me, so I had this additional fear of anyone seeing me on this walk of shame. So I made sure no one saw me. If I saw any vehicle coming, I'd hide. I couldn't handle the thought of anyone witnessing this. I walked. And walked. And walked. It felt like forever, but I walked the entire way. And I finally got there, and walked into the office to report my tardiness. It turns out that my mother had not intended me to actually do that. She had called the school to have someone come and meet me on the route. Not that she said anything about this to me. The bus driver had gotten back into her bus and drove the route they thought I'd have taken, and then when she didn't see me, she then got into her personal car and did it again, and again, trying to find me. Multiple people were sent out to look for me, but again, in my mind, I couldn't allow anyone to see me in this shame, plus I was old enough to know about stranger danger and was scared about that, too. I absolutely was not going to let anyone find me. I think they were actually on the phone to the police when I walked in the office door. As for fallout, I'm sorry, but I can only speculate based on other memories. My mother would have been chastised by the school for not telling me to expect someone to be looking for me to offer a ride. I would then have been punished, yelled at, spanked, grounded, because my mother could never handle being wrong, so it had to be my fault. I don't remember ever having to do it again, though. Story 5. My new catchphrase is not my job. So I got turned down for a promotion recently. I was told that I get distracted too easily and don't focus on my job. I got told that I need to stop trying to run in to be a hero if I ever want to be considered for a promotion. I was told that I need to work as directed. So for context, I have been doing my boss's work for him. When things at work get backed up, I will jump in to get things back in order quickly. My job has fairly specific jobs where we aren't supposed to change positions and we are to work as directed. I have gone to help out those outside of my job repeatedly since being hired. My direct supervisor and manager loves it when I go to help out. Well, that all stopped now. I even had the big boss try to tell me to help out a section that's outside my job description. My new catchphrase is not my job. I had the bosses tell me that I am to do as instructed. I instead go to the union and get paid an extra to work in a different section. This has been the new trend for the past couple months. And today it all hit ahead. They have only one person in receiving for a 4-man crew. I work outbound. They cannot force me to work receiving based on the contract. Now the bosses are working in there and grievances being filed. The bosses have stopped working and receiving is completely backed up. I just had my manager come and beg me to help. I told him not my job. I need to remain focused on my job and not try to be a hero. Work has ground to a halt and the steward is demanding triple rate for anyone moved to receiving since management decided to work. Let's see how this goes. Story 6. Not my job became I am not qualified for that position. So this is an update with the full fallout from them denying my promotion. Management lost production for that day and nothing was done. They have been handing out O/T like it's candy all week. I just got done with a 1-2 HR shift. They asked me to help out in a neighboring department and instead of saying not my job like I was doing, I remembered that you have to specially qualified to work over there, so I quipped I am not qualified for that position. Management then used the contract to make me work in department I was qualified for to help out. I made sure to tell my shop stewards so they know. Things have settled down at work and got back to normal. I will post if anything else comes up. Story 7. Take notes of everything you say in the meeting, okay, but it will get you fired. So this happened a few years ago, and I will be vague since I'm still not sure if the dust has fully settled from this fiasco yet. At my former company, I was the secretary for a small improvement team that would meet monthly to discuss issues within the company and brainstorm ways to fix them. Something you need to know about me is that I was given this role because people know I am meticulous at keeping records due to HR-related issues I had at a previous place of employment. I don't think my boss realized that this careful record-keeping applied to her as well, especially when she appointed me to be secretary of this little committee, but I digress. I was a model employee, award-winning, and went above and beyond what was asked, as were many others in my department, but we were still having customer complaints and dealt with regular safety issues, due to the company at large and through no fault of our own. When we brought these concerns to our boss's attention, emails were left unread, and during in-person exchanges, we were called whiny, needy, and were told that we needed to just deal with it. Whatever the issue, from items being stolen by customers to people being unhappy with the procedures the boss had set down for us to follow, it was always made to somehow be our fault. When we sought support from other departments, we were met with cold indifference, since the boss was great to them, and we must be exaggerating the things she said to us. Well, during an improvement meeting at the end of the fiscal year, it all came to a head. Myself and a couple of my team members dug our heels in and were insistent about the unresolved issues the boss refused to acknowledge, and she finally went off on us. She told us everyone was incompetent, didn't deserve our jobs, and that maybe customers would like us more if we were more likable. When people pressed her on safety issues, she continued to reiterate that we would just have to deal with it, and that if someone was going to die, they already would have, right? I, as the secretary, did my duty and took notes of all that happened over the course of that meeting. I usually did bullet points, but that night, I was feeling a little more thorough, so I wrote down words. Every word that was said. Every hateful comment, denial of accountability, and idle threat was recorded in black and white. Now, a second part of my job was to distribute the notes from the improvement meeting to the rest of the company. So, come the next morning, I ran about 100 copies of the transcript of the meeting and hand-delivered them to every single department in the building, and things blew up. People from other departments who had attended the meeting were able to verify that everything I had typed up had really been said, and folks were mad, threatening to quit, refusing to do their normal duties, browsing Indeed during work, etc. My boss's boss, who worked at HQ, so I didn't get the opportunity to hand her a copy, got wind of these meeting minutes only a few hours after I had handed them out and had an hour-long, off-the-record conversation with me about all the safety issues I had documented, all the concerns I had submitted to management in writing, and all the records I had regarding my boss's inaction. She was very grateful for the 100 pages of documentation I sent over and thanked me for my time. The day after I unleashed Pandora's box, I put in my 2 weeks' notice, took a new job, and pieced out to greener pastures. At first, it seemed like things were calming down after I left, but the following year, the company did not renew my boss's contract. I still feel a bit bad because I wasn't trying to get her fired or ruin her life, I was just desperate for some accountability thrown her way to create some positive change in the company. But at the end of the day, I just did what she had asked me to do. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.